Hello, welcome to my channel, another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and this is the beginning of week 11 of my 100 book challenge, where I have challenged myself to read 100 books that I already own before buying another book. And I'm out on my sun deck on a very cold morning in Virginia. I really need to get more sense in my head and go back inside. So, beginning this week, I'm going to try something a little new. I don't know if I'll continue it, so after watching this video, leave me some comments. But what I'm going to do is try to leave a one-word ranking of the books that I have read. I got this idea after reviewing some books on LitHub, and they have this category that they rank books by: rave, positive, mixed, or pan. Now, their calculations come from a number of different reviews, and they just add it all up together and say how many rave reviews it got, how many positive reviews, how many mixed, and so forth. But at the end of each review, I'm just going to say rave, positive, mixed, or panned. I may give like a plus or a minus if I feel it's a bit on the edge. So let me know in the comments if you think this is a good idea. I will try it this week and maybe next week and just see how it goes. I have finished my 57th book, Finders Keepers by Stephen King, the second in the Bill Hodges trilogy. I will be doing a live show the fourth week of this month with my co-host Bad is Rad, Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, and maybe a few others. And we will be discussing this book in full detail, so I will keep this rather short. This book is a little bit uneven. It starts off not with the characters from the previous trilogy, but with a young man named Morris, who is robbing a famous author, a reclusive author in New Hampshire. He has not written a book for many years, but he wrote some of the most popular books in the previous decades. And it is rumored that this author has a whole lot of cash in his house. But Morris is a bit of a literary man. He thinks that this author, John Rothstein, has notebooks of his writing, because apparently he's still writing books even though he's not publishing. Now Morris kills John because he did not like what he did with one of his characters in his previous book. He thought he made the characters sell out, and Morris himself would never be a sellout. And then it jumps a few decades to a young man named Peter, and Peter finds a chest buried in the woods behind his house. It is full of cash. It is full of notebooks. And the first couple hundred pages go back and forth between Morris and Peter. How Morris, after murdering the author, took his cash and took his notebooks, and had a few things happen to him that led to him burying these items in the woods. And then, what does Peter do when he finds this in the woods? His family is desperately poor. His father was very briefly mentioned in the first book, Mr. Mercedes, because he was one of the people injured by the killer in that book. So his father is disabled. They're broke. So Peter has to figure out a way to get his family this money that he found without letting the police know. And of course, you know, Morris will return for his money, but more than the money, the notebooks. And that's what makes this book really fascinating to me. It is because it is about literature. It is about writing. It is about loving an author's work and being totally absorbed in that author's work. And then after about 200 pages, Bill, Holly, and the rest will return to solve this problem of Morris and Peter. I give this a positive review. Not clearly Stephen King's best work, but decent. I have finished reading my 58th book, Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. In the author's biography, Alison Rumfitt describes herself as a writer and a semi-professional trans woman. And this is a hybrid novel, is what I'm going to call it. It is part horror, haunted house novel, and part LGBTQ novel. Now, the LGBTQ novel is going to give people like Moms for Liberty conniption fits, because it is rather graphic sexually and explores the lives of trans women in a mostly positive way. The haunted house version of this horror is okay. I liked it. It does not quite hold up to The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson or Hell House by Richard Matheson, but it's a fairly decent horror novel. Now, this novel is told basically from three narrative points of view. You have the two women, one of them is a trans woman, and one of them is from the haunted house itself. And the narrative from the haunted house is really kind of good. I really liked those chapters. The chapters from the two women, not so much. There is an issue with unlikable characters. It's okay for a novel to have unlikable characters, but those unlikable characters have to have an interesting story or an interesting perspective. And I just did not find that in this book. Now, this book does get rather rave reviews from some other booktubers. A lot less so. I'm going to say this is a mixed review, or even a mixed positive, because there are some good aspects to this book. She also has another novel named Brainworms. I'm going to put that on my Kindle watch list to see if it ever drops to $1.99. And if it does, I probably will pick it up. But other than that, I'm just going to wait and see if this author ever gets some legs and produces a really good book. I have finished my 59th book, The Fall of Chronopolis by Barrington J. Bayley. This is a science fiction novel originally published in 1974. It was reprinted as Gateway Essentials, and Gateway Essentials was a British science fiction publisher that got the rights to all the old science fiction novels that had gone out of print. Well, maybe not all of them, but bought up a lot of the rights to reprint some of the great science fiction novels that you couldn't buy anymore, that were never going to be reprinted. And this is one of them. This is a time travel story, and it's a rather bizarre one. In the future, time travel exists, and there is an empire expanding across the galaxy with the power of time travel. And they are encountering some problems with this group out in the galaxy called the Hegemony, which don't want to be absorbed into the empire. So the Hegemony has discovered this weapon. It is a time distortion device, which deployed can take things out of time completely. So there was a city on a planet, and they released the time distortion device, and that city suddenly ceased to exist across all time, as if it never was. And the problem is, if it never was, people never knew that it never was. So the empire is slowly shrinking, and they don't know why, because they can't remember these cities or things they've taken out of time. Now, there is a time travel bureau. That's not what he used in the novel. I already forgot his definition, but this bureau of time travel archives, and they keep archives of everything that existed. And these archives do still exist if you're part of if you're an archivist. They tell the emperor, this planet disappeared. So there's a whole bunch of issues with that. Then there is a space captain on a ship who ship got destroyed in a battle with the Hegemony. And for a variety of reasons, the captain is accused of cowardice. Now, it is not true that the captain was not a coward. There was an evil sect called the Traumaticists, or the Traumatists, who believe in an evil god of time. And all this mixes into a very pulpy adventure. The characters, well, okay, you don't get a whole lot of characterizations in this book, but it's amusing. It's like I said, it's a very pulpy science fiction novel. It's like something you would expect to read out of Edgar Rice Burroughs or someone like that. The old-time pulpy adventures like Doc Savage. So I can recommend it. This does get a positive review from me, although there are a couple scenes towards the end where I'm, how would that actually work in reality? But it's a good time travel novel because it answers some questions like, what would happen if you went back in time and murdered yourself? Fun things like that. So I can recommend it. It's never going to make the top of my science fiction list, but it's fun. Although this book was recommended from another science fiction booktube channel. I don't remember the exact channel where this book did make his top science fiction novel. So maybe some people like this even more than I did, but still a very solid, positive review. I have finished reading my 60th book. This is James Ensor and Paul West. This is essentially a book collecting some of the paintings of James Ensor, who was very popular in the late 19th century. And he has some very unusual pieces of art. I will show a couple of these to you. He's very fond of skeletons. You can see there's skeletons with a hanged man, and that is maskers arguing over a hanged man. And this is one of my favorites. This is, what's it called again? Skeletons arguing over a red herring. And as Paul West points out, why would skeletons even need to eat a red herring? This is Paul Ensor view of critics fighting over this morsel of art where they're not even gaining anything out of it. Well, that was Paul West's criticism. Whether that's the actual truth or not, I am not going to say. There's a couple more that I really want to show. Oh, this is just like a sketch, but this is a dead woman with a black cat on her head. Do you know what story this comes from? Of course, it is The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. And Paul West does talk about James Ensor sort of being a Poe-esque sort of painter. And he just gets bizarre paintings like this one. Woman coming in to talk to a man. It's called The Offended Maskers. And here is the painter skeletonized in the studio. So this is sort of his version of a self-portrait. You gotta love this. I just find this artwork so amusing. And again, more skeletons around a stove, skeleton wishing to warm himself. So just for the artwork alone, this book gets a very positive review. It's not very long. It does include an essay by Paul West. Paul West at one time was one of the top literary authors. He often was talked about in the same breath as William Styron. They were pretty much of the same generation. Paul West has really sort of fallen out of favor. I have read a book or two by Paul West. He's a very good literary author. His essay in here is okay. It's just an essay of him talking about art and describing art, what he feels about it, what it could mean. By no means great, but the artwork itself in this book is just what makes it. It's so much fun to pick up a book of art, and just peruse it. This book is solidly out of print. I believe I picked it up sometime in the 90s, and it's been sitting on my shelf all these decades, and I have not, until now, perused the whole book or read the essay. And that's a shame, because this is just a wonderful discovery that I came across for the Read What You Own challenge, because there's lots of good books sitting on my shelf for a long, long time that I've never read. And part of this 100 book challenge is making me go seek out these books, because this one is a winner. I'm tempted to give it a rave review, but the essay by Paul West, just did not come up to the level of the paintings themselves. Now, that may be a fault of mine, just judging writing about art rather than just looking at the art. But hell, I had a lot of fun with this. And that is a wrap for week 11. Didn't read a whole lot this week. I had a lot of things I had to do around the house and so forth, and just generally lazing about and not being in a very reading mode. Well, anyway, on to week 12. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.